Now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker for this morning. She's our assistant minister. She is the demure, has a calming persona, but always brings a message of love, light, and inspiration. Please put your hands together and help me welcome Rev Ann Shand to the podium. Thank you. That's precious.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rev Ann.
You know, surprises are nice. She comes to the podium and she reads, but she doesn't put her hand on it there. It's her birthday. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Your Temple family, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Mr. Dexter will tell you that you all need to breathe from the gut. So, he's home, by the way, and recuperating very nicely. Good morning again, and welcome to all who are joining us in consciousness on the World Wide Web. One of our responsive readings begin like this, and I quote, "Life has set the stamp of individuality on your soul. You are different from any other person who ever lived. You are an individualized center in the consciousness of God. You are an individualized activity in the action of God. You are you, and you are eternal." End of quote. Why has this statement made such an impact and impression on me? I have attended celebrations and Thanksgiving services for a number of persons in quick succession in the past month. And I note the sharing, some quite intimate, as to how these loved ones have engaged life itself and the leaving of memories that will become a part of the family's assets handed down to successive generations. Because some of the stories, you can just imagine conservative Mobe, Holy Trinity, yes, Anglican Church. And the very Reverend Canon is saying, Dim Ziza, that's the wife. She's a laborite. And the husband who made the transition is a PNP. I mean, this otherwise sad place just broke out into laughing because they all remember the conversations in church, one side green, one side orange. It was funny because it's a very big family. I don't know how they manage that, but I found that quite intimate and it helped the mood of the situation. Anyway, Monday last was International Youth Day, and I had the pleasure of listening to a group of young people giving their own opinions on various items of discussion, as well as how they intend to make a difference in the world they are now a part of. These young people in their early 20s are already motivational speakers, some initiating foundations, and this one really touched my heart. It's a young lady in the middle of Spanish Town, March Penn, who has started this foundation to assist the growth and unfoldment of girls at risk. And one of the young ladies who benefited, who used to go to Errol's old school, St. Catherine High, 16 years old, said, "Thank God for their intervention." Now, this was started by a young girl in her early 20s, and the impact that she's having in March Penn is unbelievable. As I said, I listened to the impact they were having on the lives of others, and with awe and reverence, I observed how the animating force with its intelligence, energy, and power has stamped its individuality on each one. And the magic came alive for me as to how each person has expressed and engaged life on their own terms in order to make a difference wherever they found themselves. Our Science of Mind text in the glossary defines life as the animating principle of being, that inner something that makes everything live. Life and power are necessary attributes of a limitless being and go hand in hand to complete a perfect individual. So life is that which lives, and the power is the energy with which it operates. Life is the quality of being running through all that enables anything to be what it is. So everything has this limitless potential to be. Whereas individuality is defined as the real idea of man, as distinguished from outer personality. Each one is a separate entity in mind. No two are alike. Each is an individualized center of God consciousness. We are born with our individuality. Our personality is the use we make of our divine individuality or identity. So up to now, how have we been accessing, utilizing the limitless potential of our being? Yes, we have now fulfilled our desires. We can be, do, have anything. But is there more to us than lies between our heads and feet? Can we contemplate more? Can we access or plumb the depths and far reaches of that infinite potential that is omnipresent, omniscient, omniactive, and omnipotent in such a way that our daily living far exceeds our wildest imaginings? Food for thought, don't? My thoughts this morning are under the theme spiritual connections. In our book, Study the Prospering Power of Prayer, authored by Catherine Ponder, Reverend Sonia introduced the idea from last Sunday. Catherine Ponder was not thinking of right contacts that may lead to success, but in making the right contact for a consciousness of prosperity, one is required to utilize our contact with that super mind of God in order to do so. Remember the old time spark plug? Kind of obsolete now, don't? Because the everything is electronically done inside of the engine. But the principle bears some contemplation. The spark plug provides the spark that ignites the gas, the energy, the power for this chemical reaction, which moves the engine, right? For any modality of transportation, any engine at all, you need a spark plug, even a lawnmower. But if the plug is fouled up with dirt, oil, residue, or grease, then the seamless flow of power is compromised, and some of us can remember our vehicles puttering and rapidly stopping and starting when you have spark plug trouble. So once the new plug is inserted or the old plug is cleaned up by the removal of whatever is hindering the power, then you move ahead effortlessly. So the lesson is that if we want to access or be more receptive to that limitless power, we have to observe our spiritual connections. We are already in eternity, and in our own way specialize the animating force of life. But is there more for us to do, be, or have? Dr. Holmes reminds us why it is important to check our connections, have a deep and permanent awareness of the presence of God in us as us. He states, each one of us is an individualized center of God consciousness and spiritual power, as complete as we know ourselves to be. And we know ourselves only as we comprehend our relationship to the whole. This overbrooding presence, this inner sense of a great reality, bears witness to itself through our highest acts and our deepest emotions. Who is there who has not at times felt this inner presence? It is impossible to escape our true nature. The voice of truth is insistent. The urge to unfold is constant. In the long run, each will fully express his or her divinity, for good will come at last, alike to all. End of quote. So no matter what you do, if you stay underneath your bed, something will juke you to come out. Because it is the nature of this presence and power to unfold and evolve. It is just our nature. So, get ready. Our lives reflect our practice of this presence of God in our experiences. How we are able to see, hear, speak, and feel this presence in all persons, in all things, pour out in our interpretation of life. We cannot help it. And we cannot be anything but what we entertain in the deep recesses of our consciousness. We cannot escape the divine urge within to create and express this animating principle within us. This is constant, so we should be prepared to experience some level of discomfort as the Spirit urges us forward and upward in its higher levels, to higher levels of evolution. Much like a sand in a pearl at the beginning, it initiates the makings of the pearl. So some of us have some sand there that we need to sort out. At some point, introspection is necessary. And in a search of self to see if who we truly are now is what we have become. Let me read that again. To see if who we truly are is reflected in what we have become. Am I the best representation of my talents, abilities, and capacities? If some level of dissatisfaction is felt, then maybe it's time to look at our spiritual connections. Our ultimate journey is to the center of our own expression of life itself, the I of our being. In our culture, when seeming challenges appear in our lives, we can join the observers and state, so it's set. But that's not really true, is it? In other words, to truly experience higher levels of consciousness, something occurs that jogs us to recognize that there is more to us than what we think we are. One of our students in the last class we had on Thursday said, you can view the challenges as lessons or blessings. You understand? Lessons or blessings, or a combination of both. But deep down, what is the reason behind our brush with duality? Even as we are all challenged to change our perspectives and see truth in all things and watch the revelation of the consciousness of God in all apparent challenges. This is my opinion, and I'm sure some of us can say, yes, Reverend Ann, you have something there. Deep down, there is in fact a sense of grandeur underwriting our upward evolution into God as man. We are avenues of greater expression of good, individualized activity in the action of God. This universal expansiveness which is always unfolding upon itself to create anew through each individual. Because no matter what the challenges are, and we go through, we lift ourselves to a higher expression of ourselves. And it goes on like that until the joy of when you can look back and say, wow, yes, that period may be uncomfortable, but look how I have grown. Look how I have gone through all this, and look at me now. So there is, in fact, grandeur to all this taking place, but yes, sometimes the eyes kind of, still have the little grease and the cake and, the stuff that sort of block our vision to the beauty that is unfolding right before our very eyes. So, what we have to do, pay attention, watch the magic and beauty of the wholeness taking place in your lives and affairs. These connections have to be totally aligned. That is our spiritual connection with the upward swing, the rhythm of the universe, which always expresses as good and more good. Catherine Ponder, in the chapter discussing making the right contact for prosperity, states, and I quote, "We can have any good thing for which we are willing to pay the price of daily consistent affirmation." May I read that again? We can have any good thing for which we are willing to pay the price of daily consistent affirmation. So when you don't feel like it and feel uncomfortable, do it anyway. We want to ensure that we live in a state of constant connection with the divine. We have to keep these connectors clean by the use of prayer, affirmations, blessing all circumstances, events, persons in our life affairs, thanksgiving, praising, gratitude, whatever it takes. That first commandment that Moses handed down 3,000 years ago is, "I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me." End of quote. Exodus 20, verse 2 or 3, something like that. Metaphysically, this quote came from Irving Seal. Every man has what it takes. Every person born into this life comes equipped with a spiritual power adequate to his needs and purposes, no matter how formidable the difficulties of his position. There's a way out of every trouble. There's a way out to every good. End of quote. Egypt is a place of difficulty, a state of consciousness which can always change. All we are asked to do is to cling to the center of spiritual power within. Our greatest discovery can only be what each individual knows about his relationship with that sovereign law of our being, who we are and what we are aware of. So the first commandment instructs us to remember, recollect, and to get in touch with this spiritual power, the source and cause of life at the center of each individual being. This builds confidence and trust as we steadfastly keep our eyes single, in always going within to the source of our being and allow its ideas for our highest expression of being to flow seamlessly through to bless, prosper, and enrich our lives and those who come into contact with us. We know we are eternal, consciousness unfolding, because if we live as lights unto our world, our influence on all lives that come into contact with us ensure the eternality of what we bring to this plane of existence, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, to love. So we model always the attributes of spirit. And when we love, we facilitate growth and unfoldment of those around us. We are peacemakers. We empower others. We see the beauty of wholeness in all other lives, and we are a joy to our God and those whom we come into contact. It is therefore natural for us to motivate others by creating bridges that permit others to be confident, appreciative of their own being, and thereby experience their own self-worth. For years now, Colleen and Carmen have been trying to start something in this temple during the summer. I promise you, Carmen and Colleen, that it's going to happen next year. We are going to motivate young people. We just want 2 weeks to talk to them. That's all. 2 weeks. And we're going to do it next year, Carmen. Promise you. It is necessary. Motivating leads to mentoring, as persons are automatically drawn to us. These personal relationships foster and assist change and transformation at various levels of awareness and consciousness. This 16-year-old girl is just making ripples in St. Catherine High. She have a chance now. She's taking subjects in her life that, only God knows how she got to 16. And she's now looking forward to her exams just because of a little 23-year-old young lady who decides, I'm going to step out and take a risk. We can do that. Once transformation takes place, the multiplying effect is the reward, which results in others being transformed as well. So no matter what avenue of expression we embrace, we each have the opportunity always to influence the upward evolution of humankind into their divine selves. This opportunity can happen at any time. We can consciously stay connected to Source and let the ripple effect of our own beingness flow through the collective consciousness of humankind. It is not dependent on education, status, age, religion, material means. None of that will matter. Each of us want to experience life more abundant at the highest possible expression of ourselves. And for others to have the same prospects as well. We cannot give up on being shining lights in our world of affairs. The story is told that Mahatma Gandhi was literally laughed out of court when he became tongue-tied while pleading his first case as a young lawyer. Later, he was thrown off a train in the middle of a South African night because his skin was not the right color of that train. That is history, because we know what he has become. Then you have Sir Richard Attenborough had a lifelong dream to honor Gandhi's life through a film about his life. He worked diligently to raise the funding for the motion picture. Imagine that. After 18 years, he was able to do this. The movie startled the motion picture industry. It ran away with the Academy Awards, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and a horde of all other Oscars. He had to go it alone. But in the end, the entire world has applauded his work, not to mention the lives which are still being transformed by the influence of Gandhi. So no matter what sphere of life's journey we find ourselves, let us stay focused on keeping our spiritual connections totally clear and in contact and aligned with the truth of our being. The practicing of the presence of God is always seeing the truth of oneness with God and all men. And that is what we are here to be and to do. So let us pay attention and remember the words of Dr. Holmes. He said, we shall discover that we are and always have been immersed in this thing called life. Closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, as intimate as our own thoughts, personal as our own breath. You can't escape it. So let us affirm together. I'll read before and I'll break it up. I love life. It is spectacular. As beloveds of God, I know that I am guided and directed to my greater yet to be. Courtesy of Reverend Eugene Holden, by the way. I love life.
I love life.
It is spectacular.
It is spectacular.
That's not all right. Come on again. I love life.
I love life.
It is spectacular.
It is spectacular.
As beloveds of God,
As beloveds of God,
I know that I am guided and directed
I know that I'm guided and directed
to my greater yet to be.
to my greater yet to be.
So friends, think on those things and let us listen to Chronics to feel the wonder of the universe within and without. So what are we going to take away today? To keep our spiritual connections clear and clean by regular spiritual practice. Pay attention to the feelings, thoughts, and activities. Let them be the highest representation of ourselves. And surrender to the greatest within. There is more to you than you think. Chronics.
According to the old book say, there was nothing. Then the Great Spirit came down and said, let there be. And there was. That's how it all began. Yes. Yet still we ask, where did the universe come from? Everything in existence, from the sky to the depths of the ocean. Every shape, every color, every pigment, every sound and every vibration. This old earth, the solar system. Everything you hold so sacred, by the hands of love, it was created and I know love. Lifted me, and I know that yeah. Set me free. Love break the chains. Yeah. Set captives free. Love breaks the chains. Set captives free. So if there was nothing, whose voice it was that said, let there be light? Who separated the day from the night? Created me, created you. I believe it was love. Oh yes. Still we want to know, where did the universe come from? Everything in existence, all your temples, your mosques and your churches, all the saints and the gods that you worship, the holiest of writings, the thunder and the lightning, everything you hold so sacred, by the hands of love, it was created, so I know, yeah. Lifted me, and I know Jah, set me free. Love breaks the chains, set me free. Breaks the chains, set me free. Call it what you may, L-O-V-E, can be found in you, and it's all over me. Jah is love, no matter the name, it's one and the same. Dance.
So let there be, and let the wonder of the universe unfold through each and every one of us, because it's there. So I'm going to leave these 3 affirmations for you with. I love my life. It is spectacular. I am ready for greater than I've ever expressed before. Can I read that again? I love my life. It is spectacular. And this last one, I am ready for greater than I've ever experienced before. Namaste.